I got invited to a interview for F sharp. I think I'm going to have to start writing some F sharp code to prepare for the interview.
Just vibe code the F sharp code.
I haven't wrote F sharp code in three months, 3 or 4 months now. Last time I wrote F sharp code was when I was basically doing large language model implementation in F sharp.
What's the interview for? Is it like an API development or web? Not web.
It's I thought it was a senior F sharp developer, senior software engineer, and the company does security monitoring
I got you.
and enables remote connecting to VMs, I guess.
Maybe sounds more fun than API development or through.
Yeah. So like, you ever have imposter syndrome? Even though you know you're good, let me frame it a different way. Given my experience of working as a contractor and working with more than a dozen shops, I know I'm really good, but also know that I don't come up with solutions on the spot as soon as a problem arises. I usually come up with a solution like within half an hour of tinkering around with a domain. Interviews, they don't give you the liberty of having half an hour to just mess around, tinkering around a particular challenge. They want you to solve it like within like 2 minutes, and that's not my strong point. Like, I don't generate code given a problem. I write a test, and then I stare at that test, and then with that test, I generate code, and I'm very like methodical. But interviews don't care about that. They care about like quick trivia, like how would you do this? Program it, ready, set, go. Fingers moving. You know, they want to see you typing, and that's not my workflow.
Yeah, I know that I guess it depends on the programming test too, because there's some things that it's literally just to see if you've got the problem solving capability, like on something that should be fairly simple, right? But it depends. There's so many different tests. Like I've had ones where I've written just basic APIs where it's like you're reading right out of the thing. Then I have some that were like you solve a small coding challenge, like a traditional problem, and it's all over the board.
For example,
Sometimes it's not even. I was gonna say before I finish. Sometimes it's not even that they want to see you code. They just want to see what your process is and how you communicate it and work with them. So I just be yourself, and you know what? If they want something that's not who you are, then hell with them.
Yeah. Like for example, FizzBuzz.
Mm-hmm.
To some elite person on Stack Overflow, they would write FizzBuzz in like, let's say 90 seconds, right? Me, I would write FizzBuzz in 5 minutes. That's the difference. Is methodically, I do TDD. Like I write tests. That's the way I approach almost every single problem. And they're not interested in that. They just most organizations, they want you to crank out code that's correct and right. And they from my experience, they aren't necessarily interested in you writing up test automation scaffolding during a interview, as you share your screen. They're not interested in that. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you have all the scaffolding ready and you just kind of jump right into it.
yeah.
There's some places that would probably value that approach. It depends on what their desire for TDD or is, you know. Um, but FizzBuzz is usually used as a like a litmus test to see, do you actually know how to code at all? Like,
Hmm.
do you have any idea how to do this? Do you have any idea how to do a basic problem like
But is it
solve?
though?
Mm-hmm.
I failed a FizzBuzz test on an interview one time, and I knew how to code, but I the last time I used the modulus operator, because that's essentially what FizzBuzz is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was in my coursework at a university. Like at that time, it was like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, I think FizzBuzz is meant to stumble people that haven't seen that problem yet.
Mm. No, it is supposed to be a just a test to see if you can code. There's probably a way to do it without modulus too. Um, it's been a while since I've done FizzBuzz. I can't even remember the rules of it.
Yeah,
Try
it's
coding it real quick. See what I can do. What's the what's the rule again? Isn't it like
I
if
thought
it?
they give you like they give you a number, and I think you're supposed to count down from the number. Like they give you like 15.
I thought it was supposed to like every even number you're supposed to.
Yeah,
Or
but I thought you were supposed to. I thought it was supposed to be a loop as you continue to decrement. Um,
FizzBuzz problem. FizzBuzz is a classic programming challenge where you print numbers 1 through n for multiples of 3, print fizz. For multiples of 5, print buzz. And for multiples of 3 and 5, print fizzbuzz. So
yeah.
yeah.
So if you completely forgot about the modulus operator and you're doing TDD, it's going to take way more time than someone that knows the modulus operator and obviously has seen that problem before. Would you agree?
Um, yeah, I suppose. Um,
You're going to have three separate tests minimum. Multiple of three, a test for multiples of three, a test for multiples of five, a test for multiples of three and five, and then you're going to have a test for any edge case that's not three or five or three and five.
yeah.
That's literally how I would write the code. Is I would use that approach. An interviewer, I would argue 90. I would argue the overwhelming majority of interviewers, they're not going to have the patience for you to do TDD. They want you to go ahead and write that for loop and plug in those conditional statements with modulus operators embedded within it and just be done with it.
Yeah. Do you
That's 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 my challenge. There's the ceremony of understanding the interview process and what the interviewer expects, and then there's the real world of how do you approach a problem such that there's reasonable confidence that you got it right the first time, but by methodically incorporating tests and edge cases when programming to that particular domain. That's where I operate from, which isn't conducive to the expectations of an interview. It may be conducive to the expectations of the job, but when they're trying to assess your skill set, they want you to complete the problem. Did he complete the problem? Did she complete the problem? Checkbox.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the place. I mean, I've never given a FizzBuzz, I think, problem for testing, so I don't
I
even.
failed it my first time.
what it looks like. I mean, I've done FizzBuzz, and I probably used the first time I ever tried it. I used Modulus, but it depends, I think, on how well. Like, I'm guessing most people who went through like a boot camp, unless they specifically taught it for the testing case, like the interview case, don't know Modulus. So unless they just happened upon it for some other reason, but yeah, I don't know. I could see, not if you just forgot about it or didn't know about it. Yeah, it would be a kind of a hard problem. But yeah, I've had ones though where I've just done like the test was literally write an API to get the result or whatever. Or I did my interview for my current job. I had to do Conway's Game of Life, which was
That was an interview
fun.
question.
Yeah, it wasn't hard. I mean, the rules are pretty straightforward.
I mean, I have a blog post where I had an implementation for it.
Although I used my one point where maybe they hiccuped was I used the yield keyword, and they're like, I think anytime that I use any, so I tend to not write what would you call it, idiomatic C#. Like I just like, I feel like there's a better way to do it than just doing it the way that most C# developers do it. And yield works perfectly in that scenario because you need to, like, I don't know, it just does. You need to like generate a sequence. Actually, you could do FizzBuzz with yield, I'm assuming too. It would make it fairly easy to do the printing, so you just do a for each on the collection based on some range, and then you do all your stuff in it. But rather than doing like a switch statement, I don't know. Yeah, you would still do the switch statement, so maybe it wouldn't be. It would make it functional anyways. I don't know.
I thought yield just is analogous to a return.
Yield is yield. So what yield does is it stops the execution at the yield point of the method and wraps it all in an enumeration. So you can do a for each over it, and when you grab the next or the next in the iteration or the enumerable, it'll just complete the next iteration of the method. Does that make sense? Like, so if you do like for I, for I 0 less than 10, I plus plus, right? And you do yield I, what'll happen is it returns an I enumerable, or I can't remember if it's I enumerable or an enumerator. It returns something within that name. Anyways, and then if you do that in a for each, the first time it goes to pull, it's going to start the sequence. So it'll start the for each or the for loop. It'll yield back 0, and then
Yeah, so you don't have to declare some instance of an I enumerable before you return that collection. You can just iterate and then yield an item within that construct that you're iterating through, and it just removes that line of code where you have to declare your I enumerable instance, right?
No. What it does is it allows for the idea of like coroutines. So the state of the execution of the method is like paused. It's stopped at the yield point. And so at that point, you can choose to go on to the next iteration or not. It's really useful, I found, in game development, because you can do things called coroutines, where you, like, let's say you're trying to move a character from A to B, and you want to spread that out over update frames. So as your game loop runs, you want them to move to the next point based on time.
Mm-hmm.
Is you put that into a function. I guess maybe they're just called coroutines anyways, but this generator function, and you could start to do the move where you do a increment of their position or whatever based on some function, and then you yield back control, which then pauses it, and then the next game loop you get the next cycle or whatever, I guess the next sequence, and it'll go through that for loop and do all the math again and then do your update again. It's I don't know. Yield is such a cool and underused thing, but it's useful in a lot of cases. Like anytime you need to generate, either if you need to generate stuff and you want to generate it on the fly and then produce it into, so like you can generate something up front and put it all into a big collection, or you could generate them one at a time in a generator using yield, so that you're not wasting all that upfront time to keep generating off, all of the results. I don't know. I love that stupid keyword. Ever since I started using it for game development, it was like, this is so cool.
But, yeah, so I got to spend this weekend probably 3 hours a day running through some code katas so I can have some muscle memory for this technical interview.
Yeah, do you know that it's going to be like those types of problems?
Well, they told me it's going to be 1.5 hours.
What? But it could be like write me an API or model me a this kind of thing or whatever.
No, I don't know. I just assume that it's an F# shop, so I just have to retrieve my muscle memory for doing your I forgot the core building blocks of functional programming. Map, filter, reduce. Right, so I got to get back into that mental state of processing lists or sets using map, filter, reduce.
Map, filter, reduce? You mean select, where, and aggregate?
Yep.
I'm just joking. I know. Actually, like JavaScript uses map, filter. I don't know. Well, I know why .NET.
Well, so F# uses map, filter, and then fold.
Fold.
Yeah.
Hey, nobody can agree. F# or C# did it because link they wanted to sound more SQL-like. Select is, well, I mean, select literally corresponds to select statement in SQL. So, which is a map.
Every time I do a fold, I'll always have to look at the documentation. I can never memorize the signature.
Yeah, well, and
you have a seed, you have an accumulator, you have the current element, and I always F up how they're arranged within that expression.
Yeah, no, I do too. Aggregate is one I always have to look at, and it sucks because it's on for reduce in JavaScript. I think the aggregator or whatever goes into different spots. So like C#, it's at the start, and there it's at the end or whatever. It's backwards from each other. So I always have to look that one up. But yeah. You want problems to do? Go out and do the Advent of Code.
Well,
that'll give you a good quick one to just practice with.
I'm going to look at the job description, and then I'm going to see if I could pull up one of their products, and then I'm going to see if I could take a day to build a what's the word I'm looking for? An impersonation, not impersonate. I'm going to see if I could generate one of their products at a very, very basic level, and hopefully showcase that so that I don't have to do any really hard problems. Interviewing, I always try to control the time versus the interviewer.
I suppose that's a strategy.
Ask me some trivia questions.
For code or what?
Anything that you would do as an interviewer.
I don't know. I don't tend to ask a lot of. I think the interview process is still broken. It's so difficult to know whether someone's going to succeed or not. Like you could come with and just kill problems and be great at it and just stink when you get onto the job, or vice versa.
You've experienced that before?
I've had people that are excellent interviewers and they just suck at the job,
Why
or
is
vice
that?
versa.
Like, where did they suck at?
Huh?
Where did they suck at? And was it they were excellent interviewers, or the people
Well,
doing the interviewing sucked?
no, I've seen people who don't do well at well, and just think about all the if you believe that you're good, think of all the interviews that you've done that you haven't done well at,
Yeah.
and realize that those were like that's a failure on interviewing. I mean,
I
it
mean, I think I'm good. That doesn't necessarily mean that I am good.
yeah,
Obviously, there's people that are better than me, right?
yeah, but the thing is I would tend to look at a couple factors. Have they held a job for more than 2 years?
No.
Is one. Well,
No.
yeah. So you were contracting though, that's a hard one to because your first job was over 2 years, right?
First job was 7 years.
So you've held a job for over 2 years.
I just broke 1 year with this job.
Because I feel like 2 years is the time frame that it takes for someone to determine whether they can, and then if they're short, you can always ask them, why did you move on, um, or why did this go? But that tells me that whoever was employing them, and it depends a little bit on the employers too, found enough value in them to keep them around, and that they actually could stick with something for more than a year. Because I've seen a lot of resumes and people that literally it's a treadmill. 1.5 to 2 years, it's zip to the next, zip to the next, zip to the next. And I get some of that because it does get boring after a little while. The
Well,
same place.
you get more money, and I mean that's the reason. That's a core reason why we work is so we can
Yeah,
make money, so that we could take care of ourselves. And if the carrot's always dangled in front of us with another 10-15% raise, how much time do we have left in our life? Like, we got to
yeah.
do a Obama, right?
Well, and they could say that I took this for a pay increase, blah blah blah, title increase, whatever. But then again, what's going to tell you that they're going to not just do that to you after you invest time and energy in them? Um, I think I can give answers and why I left every place that I ever left. That aren't, I got bored. Um, I think maybe Proto Labs was one where I just not Proto, but anyway, sorry, I'm just going off of tangents.
No, I mean
Um,
it's happened to me. I interviewed at Rocket Loans in Detroit, and it came up, and I'm like, I see opportunity to increase my value. Right, I give myself raises, and so I'm a business too. They didn't like that answer.
yeah, well, and it depends on the type of job, but I guess I wouldn't like that answer either. But that's the thing is you want someone that you're going to invest into for at least probably 4 years. I think 4 years is probably a pretty good number for.
So let's take that statement.
That's why your vesting schedule. Think of you haven't had options, but the two
I've
places
never
I
had
had
options, even when I
options are
asked. Never
4 year
ever.
schedule.
Whenever I've asked for that, they don't offer stock options. Believe me, whenever I'm negotiating like my compensation, no one has ever offered me options every time I've asked for it.
Well, you're
So
doing mostly contract work though.
I work for low to mediocre performing organizations across my entire career, except for my first job.
You need to work a startup, dude. It's different. But actually,
But I've done
startup.
government startup, or they're
Well,
not really startups,
super,
but
yeah. Hey, what I mean is, if you do a startup that's, like a funded Silicon Valley one, or got funds through, they're burning, like they're on a burn rate, right? And you actually have to move fast, but that actually wouldn't work well with your development style because you have to be a little more willing to roll with the punches and just say, you know what, I'm not going to write tests on this because I can get this out today and I can deliver it and we can get some feedback going, or I can get it out 2 days from now and it might be the best code that's ever written, but it's not going to necessarily deliver any different value. Like people are a little more forgiving about bugs and stuff, I think too, and smaller. It depends on the type of bug, obviously, um, but you got to roll more. But those are ones that'll tend to give options, and they're always on a 4-year cycle. So it feels like 4 years should be the kind of like litmus test of, or have you stuck with a place? Um, but that, given lack of that, then the other key indicator might be just literally just GPA in school. Did you show up and do your work? It shouldn't be hard to get above a 3.5 in college if you still look at college as a thing, right?
Were you working during college?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do? You were working full time and going to college.
I worked. Did I work full time? I worked. So my first 3-4 years, I worked at Walmart. Like I think full time, or if it wasn't full time, it was close to full time, like a 32.
Oh, so you worked nights.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah. My
because
wife did too.
yeah,
We
because
both worked.
I worked night shift at a factory, and I went to school during the daytime. And I think for people that are human that require sleep, rest, and also have other obligations, maintaining a 3.5 and still putting in 40 hours at night at work and still having to have 12 or more credit hours per semester, I, I, I don't think that that's an expectation.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, and there's circumstances like yours that are maybe there's exceptions to it, but you can always ask that too, like, your GPA was a little lower. Why do you attribute that?
Yeah, but that's hiring someone fresh out of college, right?
Or maybe well, yeah, I'm saying if you don't have enough work history to make a judgment. But I think what I'm saying is that my preferred one would be, do they have the work history and or the school history that indicates that they've at least accomplished something? You know, two, do they, and you could probably just ask basic trivia questions about, do they know the language or tool that they say they're doing, right? Um, and then three is just have a policy of being if they don't work out, get rid of them right away. You know, um, if you if they well, sorry, there is a third part or in there, which is do the cultural interviews. Make sure that they're just not a jerk. To me, a lot of it is just pass the "do you're not a jerk" test, and then the fourth one is be willing to get rid of people pretty quickly if they come in and they're not working out. If you put all those together, I don't even know that you need
Gamlor.
to do any sort of testing because you've got the formula then, right? And it is expensive to hire someone for sure, um, but it's more expensive to keep someone on who sucks. Not sucks. I
Yeah.
mean, people are trying their best, but they're just there are people who are either jerks when they come in, or they just don't know how to do work or get it done. And those people you probably got to get rid of pretty quick. And if they're really, if they're generally able to get work done, but maybe they just need some help, then you invest in them. And if they're good people. So
Gamlor, what's your name on Twitter? Because I can't find it.
you can invite them
I
in
like
like
the session we had
the
last Friday.
Aussie. I wonder how he's feeling a week later after Trump goes abroad and basically like the Middle East is
They give
like,
him a plane
yeah, and he
that's
takes all
likely
the
rigged
sanctions
with a
off
whole bunch of.
Syria.
It's probably rigged with a whole bunch of spyware.
Well, we have people that can suss that thing out.
Well, yeah, with current technology, we do.
Well, eh, whatever. Um, but that's the talking points the media wants you to believe. But you got that. You've got the China tariff thing taking a pause pretty much right out way after that. There's so much.
My Microsoft bounced back.
Yeah. What's it called? India now dropped all their tariffs on the U.S. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that it just keeps coming. Boom, boom, boom.
At least you and I didn't know India dropped their tariffs.
Yeah,
At
that
least
was
you,
really that
at
was
least
announced
you and I
yesterday.
weren't butting heads on Trump, because I understood his intent, and I was like, you know what? If I was in his position, of course I probably wouldn't have came up with that solution. But yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's we can have short term pain for long term success. That makes sense. But I mean, people, the majority of the population is so short sighted, man. They see everything in quarterly earnings. That's all
Yeah.
they care about. They don't care about your children. They don't care about my kid. They don't care about 20 years out. They care about three to 4 months out. That's it. They're retards, man. You know how many retards I've seen protesting Tesla shops? Like,
Yeah.
and their biggest argument is, oh, he has access to our information.
So does
So,
everyone else.
so,
Like literally, they
like
during
they didn't have a credible argument. He
it's like
has access. He wasn't elected. He was appointed.
none of the bureaucrats are elected. Almost none of them. They're all appointed. But the funny thing too is that
Gambler, I'll
like
send you an invitation if you do have availability to hop on and talk to us very soon.
all of the Social Security like administration or whatever was hacked or whatever. So all of your SSAs are out there, SSNs and stuff are out there. It's like and really, what's the billionaire gonna do with your specific who wants to build rockets and cars gonna do with your information? Who gives a
People, people just lack critical thinking skills, man. And why? This is an interesting discussion. Why are the you say, Scott, you're wrong, and I'm okay with that. Why are the majority of nuts that lack critical thinking? Why did the majority of them live on the West Coast?
Well, they don't. They live on
California,
both
Oregon,
coasts.
like Washington State. Like, I think geographic wise, a lot of like extreme left people live literally on the left coast of United States. Like, I have mentors that no matter what Trump does, they will always find an issue with him. Hey, gambler,
Hello. Oh no, black screen, but it broke.
what do you mean by black?
Black screen. It's a color.
Oh, come on.
You're 6 hours ahead of. No, you're probably 8 hours ahead of us, gambler.
It's like 2 p.m. for me.
I can't do the math. So it's 6 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. I have an interview coming up, gambler, and I'm insecure about it because I don't think I can write code on demand, on the spot. I was telling Sean that I usually, when presenting a problem, it usually takes me 30 minutes to come up with what I believe is a good solution. I'm not AI where I just generate on the spot, an answer within like 90 seconds.
I barely write code at the moment. I'm like, the company is or was bought, so I'm more busy with merging and integrating into the new corporate world. So,
Oh, that's fun.
and once in a while I get to write code, but it's rare.
Are you a staff engineer or principal or something now?
I just an engineer. I don't know.
Yeah.
We were like 9, 10, 8 people depending on the year, so there was no real role. So I was like, check of no trade, basically. That was my title.
You know what happened to me? Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for this. Is I get a message, Scott, system XYZ is broke. We need it fixed ASAP. And I'm like, of course, I wrote that system. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know why it broke. Like, so I try to go into the system, and yeah, there appears to be some failures when I look at the logs. Okay. So then, first thing I'll try to do is execute the automated test that I wrote because I'm the only person that writes integration tests period. And like they all pretty much pass. And I'm like, all right, well, all my tests pass. What could have possibly broke if all my integration tests are passing? All right. And then I'm like, I'm trying to look at it and make long story short, right? I didn't really change any of the code, but I did notice that when I would when I would modify the code and and add new lines of logging to get deeper visibility into what's being executed, it wasn't showing up. So I would add like a log statement in a particular method that I know is being executed, and it's not showing when I'm looking at the logs. And I'm scratching my head like, oh, okay. Is the latest assembly that I'm deploying via pipeline actually reaching the the environment? Because it seems like it's not. If the log entry that I expect to see is not showing up. Make long story short, I removed, in this case, I don't know if you guys have heard of Serilog. It's like a third party library or whatever. I removed Serilog and just replaced it with some default logging because I didn't know what else to do. And it started working. Like everything just started working. I didn't change anything. I just removed the logging part so I could get more visibility and things just worked. So the moral of the story is I don't think I'm qualified to be a senior engineer anymore because I don't know how a system works that I wrote myself. Of course, I didn't make the decision to use Serilog. Someone else did that, and it's like infinitely configurable. Like, I don't know, man.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
I
go ahead.
sorry,
I was
like
just
for
gonna say,
logging, when I get away, I just use the most basic logging library and just write the standard out because then there's less things you can misconfigure for the logging.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, so it was actually the configuration of Serilog was what was causing the actual errors in production, or is that just why you weren't seeing your logging statements?
you can infer that. I don't.
So the whole code started working. That was broken.
I didn't change the code, but I couldn't look. I didn't have visibility into the system. And instead of looking at log files, I had to. If you know anything about Azure, and I'm sure AWS probably has something similar, I had to look at for the product in Azure is called Logstream, right? So it's real time. It's a command window in real time that you can see log statements being executed versus opening up a text file that has all your logs in it, right? So I had to like in real time look at a command window and like I wasn't seeing anything. And then when I freaking modified the code to stop relying on Serilog and I just pass in the default, logger, I get a instant message or a Teams message. All right, Scott, things are looking better now. I no longer see the errors. Good job. I type. I didn't do
Fixed.
anything but remove Serilog, which I've never understood. It's definitely configurable. It is engineers XYZ's solution that has always given me problems that I haven't really had adequate time to truly research and understand. Well, whatever you did, it works now. Thank you. All right.
I mean, not via Serilog, but like other systems I had sometime, it tried to write to like standard out, and then another process was listening, and that one didn't read back, and then it just at some point the standard out says you cannot write anymore, and it just blocks on the standard out, and the system grinds to a halt because you try to log out, and like the system who should receive the log doesn't, and it's like
Why does standard out sound like C++? Isn't it like STD colon
it's a Unix concept, I think,
Oh,
originally.
okay.
But I don't know. Windows has it out. Also, I don't. Maybe they give it a different name.
I
Yeah,
thought you.
you're thinking of stdio, which is the standard IO library in C.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, your Gambler's right. It's an operating system concept, and it's yeah, it's useful in Windows too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Gambler.
like I had the production down a while ago. I got alerts. Was like I investigated the first alerts, and there was like some rate limit in the third party API, and it's like, okay, it's not a problem. We have them once in a while, so I started to ignore the alerts. And then I got like a few days later a support request. Hey, the app is not working. It just times out. It's like, okay. I look at it. Then like, it's quite a lot of alerts. Oops, the app once in a while just pauses like for minutes. It goes on vacation, and I just ignored the alerts because I thought it's like this rate limit. But it was actually there's another problem where it like the classic the regex how is it called, like exploding regex, but it just hung up on some regex because it went
I
into
thought you said
ex,
DirectX at first. You're saying
no
regex.
regex,
Uh,
yeah, combinatorial explosion. It's like, oops, the app
you
is down
guys
because of
don't
that.
have a constraint put on regex so that people don't try to use it to hack. Like
It's a core
having
feature
okay.
that you can write. You cannot write regex per se, but it's turned into a regex, whatever.
Well, what I mean
Under the
is
hood.
like, will regex accept a 20,000 character string, and is
It's like
should it?
this where you write the short one, and because it has some unfortunate like back tracing where it can go different routes, it can explode into this exponential exploration of
Yeah,
does it still match, and then you're just churning CPU.
yeah. That's a skill set that I've never developed is understanding regex. I still have to research cron expressions every single time.
Everybody does, me too.
I had it memorized for my Azure certification, and then once I completed my Azure certification, I forgot it again.
Yeah,
So,
it's black magic. I usually go to a website and write the stupid regex, the cron chop expression.
Sean already knows what I was going to say.
No, I don't.
He's like, yeah, it's black magic. I'm like, why gotta be
Oh,
black?
there it is. Yeah.
It's fine. No, it's we haven't had you hop on in a while, and I thought last Friday's session with the complete stranger was pretty cool, and so I just decided to send you an invitation. I wasn't sure if you would be available or not, but
Depends. Usually I have a meeting at this time,
oh,
but you're locked out. So, or it can be very short, it cannot exist, or it can be a long meeting. It's always a
mm,
gamble.
So you missed the meeting so much that you had to join a meeting with us. So after
I mean, I,
I'm
I
just
can
joking.
I can rent to another audience, or I don't know.
and you use your personal laptop for work?
It's a company provided one. This one.
Okay, but you're using your personal laptop now, or you don't have to answer that question.
It's not that strict yet. There will be ISO certification coming up in the new company, so I'm not sure. There will be a new setup later,
Yeah.
but it's on the way.
That's one of the things I look forward to. If and when I ever get a new job, then I could like be a digital nomad again. I really want to get out the United States and go to Asia Pacific. Now, will my body be able to adapt and work East Coast or Midwest hours while living in like Asia Pacific or maybe doing a month in Africa? I don't know, but I would like to try it. At bare minimum, I want to be able to take a Thursday to like a Monday, still get my work done on those particular weekdays while still vacationing, in the Caribbean or something, which I can't do now. So you guys don't know what I'm talking about because you guys are married with children.
It's like as soon as I'm off to work, there is somebody waiting, so there's not much vacationing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bachelor
similar.
life.
You just gotta settle down, and then you can just be like one of us.
I tried to.
Gooba Gaba, one of us.
I tried to. That's another topic for therapy session.
You should ask Amler about FizzBuzz. I think he missed that conversation.
Yeah, I
Did you
just
hear our
told.
FISBA? Oh,
No, no.
I was telling him. So I have an interview coming up for like a senior F sharp developer, but I haven't written F sharp in like 3 to 4 months. So I need to take probably 2 to 3 hours for the next like 3 days. I was probably just going to do some code katas because I don't think I have the muscle memory anymore. And so we were talking about like I was talking about like when it comes to me writing code on the spot in front of the interviewer, I don't have to. I'm not going to deliver the solution within their expectations because I'm very methodical. I literally like when giving a problem, I still do like domain modeling and then TDD. I just don't start writing code. That's not the way my mind is wired, right? So even with FizzBuzz, you're familiar with FizzBuzz? Yeah, even with FizzBuzz, I'm my argument with or my debate with Sean is FizzBuzz is a question. FizzBuzz is a problem that expects someone to already know what the modulus operator is. Else, I think they're going to struggle, right? And the expectation with the majority of interviewers is they want you to solve FizzBuzz probably within like 3 minutes max, right? And if you're someone that has never seen that problem and you've the last time you've seen the modulus operator was in college during your like one of your computer courses, then you're probably going to if you're like me, you're going to struggle with it, especially if you rely on test driven development to flush out code, right? To help you methodically think about what it means to solve that problem. And so I told him like I failed my FizzBuzz, test at an interview one time. I don't
Yeah.
think that makes me a bad developer.
So
You probably
you have to have it printed out just in case next to you.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty much going to have an index card of the parameter positions for fold operation, right? Because I have to look up fold every single time, just like I have to look up aggregate if you're doing .NET every single time. So I'm just going to have an index cheat sheet of all the method signatures, right, or function signatures, so I could try to get through this test.
Yeah, yeah. I rarely. I mean, if I write Scala, I write also stuff others. But yeah, I never can remember fold there as well.
Yeah, I know that there's a seed operator. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
not operator. There's a seed parameter. There's an accumulator parameter, and then there's the current element, and then there's a list. But I don't know what order they go in. And one of them is a tuple as a parameter. Not sure which one. So
You don't just so the IntelliSense doesn't help you out while you're writing it at all.
it can help out, but when doing F sharp or functional programming in general, I still have to like understand what the IntelliSense is trying to tell me. It gives me a hint, but my mind doesn't immediately say, okay, I still have to map that IntelliSense to what I need to do. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the IntelliSense for aggregate in .NET is like really dense too, because there's just so much going on with it. But because you got like function of action, like you got a bunch of stuff going on.
Or I'm just gonna have Gemini or ChatGPT running in the background, and I'm gonna act like I'm running a test, but I'm just gonna go ahead and ask one of the language models, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I got it now. Copy paste. Like,
The well, I mean, you can I think like when we give interviews, you can have an open book type thing. Like you can go search. We don't allow you to use AI yet, but we probably should, because like to see how you use AI, it's actually something desired now. You haven't looked at Cursor yet?
No.
Me, no. No.
You guys need
I
to.
have other things. If I would have time, I have other things I'm more interested in Cursor.
Like what? Like professionally, or are you just talking about life?
Let's say in the professional realm, I have more things I want to do than I ever have. I want to push, if I have ever time, the like mill build system forward. It's because it's like the first build system I don't actively hate, and some other ideas.
I actively hate all builds.
So I thought you were in the Java ecosystem, right?
Yeah. Mill build is, I would say, for the Java ecosystem.
So
You
is
can
that
do other
Maven,
things.
Gradle? I don't know what that stuff. They all have
No, I
weird
mean,
names.
most in Java is this Maven or Gradle, which are like my problem with most build systems. I mean, there are so many, but with a lot of them is they work. If you have a very standardized project, they work well. And as soon as your project gets bigger and you have like different languages and it has like weird requirements, like, I don't know, we have to build this to build the documentation, which then is packaged differently to this part of the application. A lot of build systems are just horribly bad for that. And then I start to hate them all. So, most of them. I didn't have, there's so many I cannot, maybe there's one I would not hate.
It's a simple solution. You just build it locally and copy the executable into the remote directory, and you're good. No.
Yeah.
I think a guy that I worked with before, he went and I don't remember if he interned at another. No, he was interning at another place maybe. And he said that they would basically do that. They had a manual like global folder, and they would have these people that would go, and their job was to integrate the code, not through like Git or anything. They would actually just like copy the code into the different repositories and merge them manually. And then I think that they would do the builds. Yeah, it was weird, but yeah, there's a lot of funk out there with build processes. I think the most fluid I ever had was actually we set up to use, well, it became Azure DevOps I think later, but there's like this time where TFS was pretty good when it was based on Git, and
You said TFS, Team Foundation Server.
yeah.
Wow.
Not source safe, not the source safe type version of it.
Man, I mean, that's when I pretty much started my career is in those days.
Yeah, but we had like, builds that always worked. They were gated to each environment. It was a simple gating process. Like everything was set up really nicely, and it was so clean.
I mean, I'm not saying the build works with our current build system, but I just changing the build is more annoying than I want it to be for local and remote. But yeah,
I just try to stay out of that process entirely.
And I don't know always end up there, I mean, it's always like the build gets more complex, and then it's like we have this new module, blah 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 blah, and then go ahead and it's like, oh, it has to also build.
How many lines of code is in the like solution?
In the current company, it's not a huge code base, but it goes to very, like the same code base goes to very different environments. So there's like a lot of flavors to build the same code. It's like it compiles down to the JVM for shipping. It compiles down to like JavaScript for Node. It compiles down to JavaScript for the front end. It's the same code, and it's like there's from the same code base a lot of flavor are built up, and that's the complicated part for one of our code bases.
Is that like are you doing like a mono repo type thing then?
Yeah.
Where you have okay. Gosh, I really want a mono repo so bad.
I mean, it didn't used to be a mono repo, but we're moving more and more towards a mono repo. In my opinion, yeah, I would recommend it for most companies. It's just hassle as soon as, I mean, if you're very isolated, if like, I don't know, this is a website for a client and I have another website for a client which never ever have something to do with each other, it's fine. But as soon as you have like, we have some shared code and it's like, if this is different repository, it's a huge friction for little gain.
So how long does it take to build?
Not that, all of it, not
Yeah.
that long. Like, I don't
Okay.
know. With
My
all
per-
integration tests, maybe 30 minutes.
Not that long. Okay. I thought that.
I mean, it
I
could be
think
way
that's
worse.
long.
Oh,
It
test
could be.
though. Yeah.
I mean, it's like the building is slow because it builds everything in like free time, and it's Scala, which is infamous for slow build times. And then the other big chunk is just integration tests with different versions.
You okay.
And
So-
Webpack is another.
Is Incredibuild like still a thing? Does that sound familiar? Incredibuild, that product.
I don't know.
So Incredibuild was distributed computing to reduce the time to reduce the build time for large code bases. It was a product that we were using for a C++ code base that I think was estimated to have a couple million lines of code. Um, and so it took the build time from like I think like from 30 minutes to like I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes. But I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
C++ is the other one famous for slow compile times. Yes.
It's weird. I used to be a C++ programmer, and I can't write Hello World in C++. I have no clue how I did that job at all, and I did it for 3 years. I have no clue how to write C++.
Yeah, I'm slowly losing it on C too. I haven't written C in a while. I probably should go back and just refresh.
I
my
never
memory.
understood pointers.
Pointers
Never,
are so easy though. Once you
never
get
understood it. Yet I did it for 3 years.
like you have to infer pointers in like C sharp or whatever. You got to know that you're pointing at dynamic memory when you're
Well,
passing around
I remember
classes
having
versus structs.
I remember having
But
the notation of having a p for pointer as a prefix to whatever variable name, but I don't remember that stuff, man. I hated working with C++. I hated it.
I'm not a fond of C++ either, but I never worked as intensely. Usually was like dropped random into helping out in the C++ code base. But yeah,
but I'll agree. C is terrible. C is elegant and nice and small.
I
love
would
C.
prefer C. At least you have your small, sharp, you know your sharp knives and you can run with it. In C++, it's like, oh, I'm so shiny. But at the bottom, there's a sharp knife you never see until you see it. and yeah.
So I would assume Real Engine is wrote obviously in C++, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Unreal is
Have they started writing any game engines in what's that new one? It's not really new and shiny, but
Rust
it's
or something.
yeah,
Rust.
Rust.
I
Because
think
the United States
small
government is
ones.
moving off of C++ now.
I
I mean, we'll
assume there is
see
some
as each
small game engine.
administration comes, but
I mean, just game engines are large beasts, and unless you're making a small game, if you're making a small game, you probably can start from scratch with Rust, but otherwise you will probably take your large beast and try to rewrite it, parts of it.
yeah, one time I had committed to learning Rust, but I never even bought a book on it. I want to get out the business of writing code. There's more money in just making decisions. Kind of like you. You don't write code anymore. We see
I
the
do
penthouse
write
you live in. Oh, you told me you barely write code anymore.
at the moment. Yeah.
Uh, I want to get out of the business of writing code. I mean, technically, it's involuntary, right, with AI as it continues to mature. Yeah, I'm gonna say something really bad. AI is replacing Indians now, which is interesting. So we'll see.
We will see. I've heard two versions. I don't know where it's like it will replace soon we will need less coder, and the other version is soon we will need a lot more coders to clean up the mess of all the vibe coded stuff
I agree.
produced.
I agree. It got me in trouble at my job
Well,
because I wasn't meticulously code reviewing what AI had generated, and I just checked it in, right? And it chose to add default values for I should have get myself in trouble. It added default values, and that probably shouldn't be default. It should probably just blow up instead. That would be safer. So,
but I mean, so the way that I use it now in my workflow is when I'm creating it. Well, if I'm making a new thing, I'll have it do almost the entire stack of code. Set up all of the classes, and it'll try its best at coming up with the logic for it. But I usually just rip that out. So it gets all the files created, all of the like names for the most part does pretty well. I can have it write like database migrations, but it's always then that's the first step of doing all the work to get all of the scaffolding. And then I just go through and methodically, modify each piece. But I don't have to create the files. I don't have to create the class names necessarily. And if I do want to change them, I just do a refactor on them.
are you talking about Cursor?
Fast. Dude, if you're not using it, it's like super handy. It's way different than coding against an agent or not an agent, a chat bot, because you're not copying code in, saying do this and then copying it out. It's literally like can interact with your file system, all of your classes, everything. It's not great at putting together larger code bases or changing existing code to do certain things. It's probably better on doing that on the JavaScript side or TypeScript or Python, because there's just so much code out there written in those languages now. But if you haven't tried an agentic development thing, to just get yourself up to like a bootstrapped point.
That's a new word, agentic.
Well, no, okay. Agentic's not new. It's like it's part of it. If you haven't done that yet, you could literally just go out right now, download Cursor, get the there's a free trial or whatever, and just have it. Like I wrote the other day, I got up to the point of a Minecraft clone, just where I could render blocks and I could move around and remove the blocks, and I had to do very little intervention. It's insane.
Okay. 5 years from now, this world's going to be very different.
Yeah, you should check out.
Ooh, shoot! I forgot. Microsoft Build Conference is coming up soon. It's going to be dominated with AI.
Yeah. Check. I mean, if you don't want to use Cursor, try the agentic Copilot stuff. Or I think there's a couple other tools you can use. There's one. Was it Windsurf?
Yeah, I think that's a competing product. Gambler, how you feel about all this?
Bought it?
Do you like to be hands-on, or do you think that one, you're going to sooner or later rely on these tools, or two, you don't want to have anything to do with it because it's just going to further remove you from what's going on in the code base? Like my muscle memory is already reduced, and I'm afraid that it's going to continue to encourage the reduction of my muscle memory when it comes to coding.
So, I have mixed feelings. I don't know. When I look at the average code and the average app, the quality is low, and these AI tools, they are equally low quality. So I generally I would love the industry to focus a bit more on reasonable quality. And if AI helps with reasonable quality, it's great. And if it just continues to spit out megabytes of JavaScript to do basic things, then it's okay, it's not a better direction.
Yeah, I think you need to temper what you use it for and rethink, because it's not just like, hey, go and you can do all the code and I'm not going to have to understand it or whatever, but use it to do all the things that you have to do that are just aren't coding, aren't thinking, that are just time consuming. Like I said, creating files,
UI work.
I think there is
writing tests.
a whole thing which it of course is awesome. Is like we want to just have a prototype, or it's like some stupid internal tool just to see if this is even helpful, spit it out and see. We want to just click it done. It has to barely work. If it barely works, it's good enough.
So this is what I'm saying, and I'm sure that we all got to wrap it up soon. But I think it's in all of our best interest to get out of the business of writing code and to figure out how we could be more valuable to organizations. I sincerely believe that our hourly rate is not going to increase anymore. It's going to continue to decrease. And it's unfortunate, but I don't think writing code is going to be conducive to me maintaining. I mean, I haven't hit my salary cap in 3 years. That was 3 years ago, right? So I need to figure out how to get into the business of making decisions, because I think people are paying less and less money for coding today, given the technology, the options, and the amount of resources in other countries that can do it for lower and maybe even better. So
I mean, for me, it's always I'm in the business of building up solutions, and if the solution involves no code, it's usually the best solution. And code written by AI is still code, so I prefer solutions which don't involve AIs, which is saying, oh, we could rearrange this thing so that it's not even a problem anymore. And
yes, but what do recruiters think? They the people that run the industry aren't coders. They're accountants. They don't understand engineering. They don't understand solutions. They get paid for basically putting butts in seats. And so I think I would agree with you, or if I understand you, that which is one of the reasons why I got the Azure certification, is I want to operate more at a solutions level versus a coding level. But I still haven't really made that leap yet. I mean, I do more Azure than anything, but I'm still required to hop in there and solve problems, and it's almost always at a coding level, or at least you have to understand it. So
I
think
coding.
What's that?
Yeah.
I said I love coding though. I like that part of it.
I love making money. And
I do like
the cost, the income from writing code. There's not an argument for you getting paid more as time goes on. The cost of writing code is getting lower and lower. That's my argument.
Yeah, and I think what it'll be is that you'll take somebody who is basically us, but when we were 20 years ago, when we just finished college, and maybe a year or two out, and they've fully incorporated AI into their workflows, and they're going to take on the role of what you would have needed 4 developers for before, or 5 or 10, developers for before, because they'll be just so productive within their stack or whatnot. So I think that's the likely scenario here.
I'm not convinced. Like for me, when I see our development, usually the coding part is not the things which block the speed. It's like we built this up, and like, was this the right decision? Does it work like this? Like, oh no, take a step back. It should work slightly different. It's like this back and forth evaluating, is this even the solution we want? And like the coding part is like, of course, if that would be faster, the overall development would slightly be faster, but I don't think it would be tremendously faster, because you just hit the wall where you have to decide and evaluate things quicker, and that's usually the bottleneck.
Yeah, it's usually with product and UX and those, and the intersectionality of like, what are we going to actually do, and how do we structure this or but the actual, once those decisions are made, the actual coding part won't take days to put together. It'll be hours is the thing. So you can move on to the next question, but you won't need a team of developers to enact that solution or that decision. You'll
Agents
need
that code
one.
review agents. You have Gemini code reviewing ChatGPTs, and things are just going to get hella evolved.
Maybe it'll actually evolve to my dream scenario where one developer owns one service or one set of services, and they're their own team, and they just work on those services, and
Yeah, they have
they
an
own the
army of
contracts
bots.
in and out. Yeah, and then
I
they just
mean,
use bots rather than having a team. Yeah.
it has like if, for example, I could take one of our products and only work myself on it, I would probably be way faster because it's like I can evaluate, implement. It's like this. The communication is the slow part. Like without the communication, it would go faster. The drawback is I maybe then develop something completely wrong because I never had feedback in the meantime. It's like, oh, no, you're wrong about that.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
mean,
but
working with
it's actually not great. But the product you're building like this, that's not what I think is great. It's like this
Yeah,
communication
but it gets you
is the hard
feedback
part.
faster though, right?
Yeah, a bit. If I, yeah,
We'll see. Unfortunately.
why don't you just finish your book?
Oh my god, dude. So I don't know if you know Sean, but I'm an introvert.
No.
But man, like I occasionally meet people. Yo, I don't understand how people have a social like circle because it doesn't give you time to do anything that you need to do. Like I've struggled to find time to work out. I struggle to find like 1 hour a day to work on my book. I don't understand how people like evolve when they have friends or relationships. Like
Yeah, wait till you have
it's a
family.
time suck. Man, it's like I realize I'm Scott Nimrod and everybody wants my time, because I'm a likable person once I open up. But man, it's like I don't have time to do anything. As soon as I finish my job, like at 5:01, my phone's ringing. Oh, I want to do something. Let's go out. Blah 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 blah. Yes, that's how they sound. And it's like, oh man, like I need to work out. I need to try to work on this book. And it's like people can't get enough of me, man. It's hard being Scott Nimrod.
Here's a strategy for you. So start hanging around libraries, meet really nerdy girls who want to review your book. Then as your date will be them going through and making all the edits. And then
You want me to go to a library to meet a whole bunch of homeless girls because that's
oh wait,
who's at the
I
library.
forgot. I
Homeless
forgot.
people.
That's yeah. I forgot that you're in Miami. Never mind.
Any
Okay.
major city, libraries are just filled with homeless people. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's like that. He's
Yeah.
in Switzerland, right? Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah.
Is Switzerland filled with homeless people when you go to
Not,
like
I never
parks and
saw.
libraries?
No,
Yeah, at parks and libraries
maybe
in
in a big,
cities, it's something
maybe
but
in a
homeless
big,
people.
maybe in big city and some parks, but on average, no.
Yeah, I'll go to Switzerland library to meet
There
some
you go.
book nerds.
Get your ticket to Switzerland and go over there and hang out.
It's not good financial advice.
Hold on, to go to Switzerland and hang out at a library to meet a
No,
book nerd.
because you will spend way more money in Switzerland for everything. So it's a pricey place.
I'll put it on my bucket list. Switzerland. You got. I know we're getting off in 3 minutes. Does Switzerland also have an immigration problem?
Immigration challenge, yes, of course.
Challenge.
It's an immigration country in the recent 20, 30 years. So I don't know. It's like a third of the population is probably immigrated the last 30 years or something. It's high.
So you don't have to comment on it because I don't want to get you in trouble, Gambler. But I would agree with ultra conservative people. Keep Europe European. That doesn't necessarily mean skin color, but I think it means culture. Same thing as keep Japan Japanese, right? I think that it's not bad to want to encourage a culture or a country to maintain their identity. You can vacation there all you want, but when you have an influx or a floodgate of people from different cultures coming in, and then the next phase is demanding that certain customs or rituals now be enforced. Uh, I don't think that's the way to go. That's all. I don't know. That could be another discussion next Friday or whatever. So
Yes.
yeah, he's like dot dot dot.
No,
I don't know if I wonder if Switzerland's one of the countries where you can, if you say the wrong thing about immigration, you can get jailed.
in general, no. So it's an reoccurring discussion and voting. It's like, I don't know, every 2 or 3 years there is some law about how to end the immigration to vote on. It's like it's a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, it's
And
weird
so
if you look at the UK right now, because Keir Starmer, is the Liberal PM, is actually like flipped the script on it. And now he's like, we got to shut it off. We gotta send everyone home, kind of a thing, which is weird. I don't know what happened there, if that was a consequence of the UK-US deal and trade or what, but definitely different.
It's good that people
Or the polling is going bad.
feel confident enough to acknowledge when maybe they learned something and now they're making moves. So on that note, hey, thanks for hopping on, Gambler. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
All right. See
Or
ya.
first, enjoy your Friday and then the weekend.
I'm going to spend this weekend practicing code katas because I lack confidence right now for this interview.
Go through the advent of code and
Okay.
just do those problems. They start off as like simple code problems and go up to like extremely hard over the month. So you can start at day one, get that one done, and then just move on. And it'll get your mind thinking in that problem solving mode. It 100% will. It's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I just need to focus on. I need to build up memory on hash maps.
I love hash maps.
I can't even define the hash map for you anymore. Like I'm so removed, right? Yeah, I got to cover all that stuff. So, all right, y'all. Take care.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.